Hello, internet friends. My name is Bay. Welcome to the Battle for Azeroth beta and the first pass look at the Blood Death Knight. Overall, there are some kerfuffling things happening on the servers right now where there is a new build, but it's not actually on the realms. It's just data mineable. I don't know how that works. I'm not a server engineer. I have no idea how any of this stuff deploys. But Frost and Unholy are still pending a little bit of a delay. Hopefully very soon. Blood Decay has had a ton of changes already, so we'll go through all those, of course, in this video. But there are still a couple of minor ones that are about to happen for Blood. We'll talk about those again in this video, but they're not actually in what you'll see on the screen. They're on the data mined information. So if you want to go through the entire 3+ hour process of all of the data mine, all of the discussion we did, of course, that VOD, the entire video will be uploaded here to YouTube. In the future, I mean, second passes to come, it'll be only on Twitch. Of course, you can go check that out whenever you'd like. And if it's your first time finding my channel or listening to me ramble about World of Warcraft specs, then hit that subscribe button to keep up to date on all of the ramblings that are going to come in the future. All the future shows, the second passes, which will be more put together discussion-oriented videos with a bit of a light script behind them. And of course, the button is right down over there. And the video description box below for the Twitch channel, my social media, and all of that down below if you'd like to be part of the live streams. Hit me up on Twitter, whatever you would like. So, what I will then open this with, right off the bat, is the change that is not in yet, but is going to be in the next build. So, on your talents right now, you have March of the Damned. March of the Damned is being removed in the next build. Already has been, but again, the build isn't live. This is being replaced with Wraithwalk. So Wraithwalk will be a talent, and then you actually have your default baseline movement speed, talent, ability, whatever, is Death's Advance. This is a 30-second cooldown right now. This is changing, so bear with me here. So, this is changing overall to, it's a 8-second duration. Again, the next build, 8-second duration, increasing your movement speed by 30% when active. You cannot be slowed below 100% of normal movement speed. The resisting movement effects and being immune to external has been rewarded to your immune to forced movement effects and knockbacks. You cannot be slowed below 70% of normal speed. So the whole you cannot slow below 100% of normal speed and the 70% of normal speed are both doubling up for some reason. Probably just the passive and the active effect. Active, you can't be slowed below 100%. Passively, you cannot be slowed below 70%. But it is going to be a 45-second cooldown up from a 30. But it does have a little micro sprint involved in it. So for all of your Death Knight woes, this will be across all the DKs, by the way. For all your Death Knight woes, you'll have a baseline slight movement speed. And then you can talent into the new Wraithwalk version, which does read, but it's a 1-minute cooldown with a 4-second duration. Right now it's a 45 with a 3-second, so 1 minute cooldown, 4-second duration. The new version is going to still be a 70% movement speed using Wraithwalk. Will remove all root effects and increase your movement speed. And then while active, you cannot be reduced below 170% of your movement speed. Now, with that being removed and March of the Damned being out of here, it will not break stuns, but you will be able to remove these snares or roots if you take the Wraithwalk version, whereas again, the Death's Advance baseline one makes you immune to the knockbacks or pulls or pushes. So that's ways you can counteract with 2 different mobility tools. However, on that same tier as you see here now, I'll bring up your current talent list you can see on live. You do have the Tightening Grasp and Tremble Before Me. You'll notice that Tremble Before Me is no longer here. However, Tightening Grasp right now is the really OP talent where it reduces the Gor Fiends Grasp cooldown by 30 seconds, and your Death and Decay does the 70% snare. To compete with Wraithwalk and give you an extra mobility tool, Grip of the Dead is a D&D 90% snare that decays by 10% every 1 second. Whoops, feedback bug. And Tightening Grasp is just the 30-second reduction on Gor Fiends. So you'll have Wraith Walk as more mobility. You'll have 30 seconds off of Gor Fiends, and you'll have the super slow D&D. This now all competes, right? So anti-movement, movement, external moving of mobs more often, and of course more mobility for yourself. So if a fight doesn't require you to always take Tightening Grasp, or not doing a Mythic Plus dungeon, you always take Trouble Before Me, then you have options there. Because they had to compete and break those apart, because otherwise Tightening Grasp on live was just set and forget, right? Other changes. Let's go over here back to my notes. Let's see. We have a few interesting ones. Most of the fact that, if you didn't know yet, Rogue poisons and bleeds, and Feral Druid bleeds, Guardian Druid bleeds as well, I suppose, all scale with haste now. But your Blood Plague, and it's yet to be found out in the new build comes out or whatever, or of course how Virulent or Frost Fever work, Blood Plague does not have any baseline haste scaling. So your passive Blood Plague, which still has the heal component, of course, attached to it, is still the same. No haste scaling, kind of weird. Veteran of the Third War has a slight change where the armor increase goes up to from 15% to 20%, which is mostly just a tweak on the numbers because you're losing armor because of this number squish, so they're buffing up your base armor with the passive, which is fine. The Rune Regen system, we tested this to make sure this was not changed. Still 10 seconds before haste on every rune that regens after you use it, and every 10% haste will take off 1 second of recharge time on your runes coming back to you. Your Blood Shield Mastery was changed earlier in the alpha build, but has been reverted back. It's the same as it is on live. It's still only a physical damage absorption shield. It's a percentage that scales with your mastery is the percent that actually is healed by your Death Strike, of course. And then Death Strike is still the sort of snapshot window, but the snapshot window was changed to be a 30% of previous 5 seconds of damage, increased from the 20% on live. And again, if I'm not talking about artifact traits or anything about that, consider them all removed. Don't think about them. If those are still here, they're gone, right? So slight buff to Death Strike because, again, you're not going to have any crazy amount of damage mitigation against magic outside of a few talent changes and whatever, obviously AMS and whatnot, because what also is a big change baseline is how your Bone Shield stacks work. Going over your mitigation here now. So Bone Shield now, when you have at least a stack swirling around you, you'll gain armor equal to 40% of your strength. You still gain the 10% haste. Each melee attack against you consumes a charge, lasts 30 seconds or until our charges are consumed. Same way it applies on live right now. There is still a 2-second internal cooldown on losing stacks. So it's the same as it is on live, but just to confirm, there was a blue tweet about this that says there's still a 2-second ICD. Now, granted, if you parry or dodge an attack or it gets fully absorbed, it will not eat a charge. But now it is armor scaling, no longer the complete flat DR anymore. This, however, brought up an interesting topic we talked about on stream today about rune forging. And one of my viewers did a bunch of little napkin math. Rune of the Fallen Crusader that procs for the 15% additional strength will, of course, feed into your Bone Shield amount. But it's obviously random because it's a proc, right? Couple procs a minute or so, right? Not fully uptimed all the way. However, Stoneskin Gargoyle kind of double dips because your base armor will be increased by 5%. I don't have it currently enchanted. I'm not going to pour it out and do it. It's not a big deal. But your base armor goes up by 5%, and then you have all stats by 5% as well. So now 5% more stamina plus armor is effective health scaling. The 5% more passive strength all the time, which is 10% weaker than the proc, would be always active, which always influences your Bone Shield, which always will give you a little bit more armor. So you do have the most armor if you actually use the tank enchant. I mean, imagine that, right? But that is confirmed based on the little napkin math we have done. So this puts a little bit more scaling into Rune of the Stoneskin Gargoyle. Now, I know you'd like the, Fallen Crusader, but if Fallen Crusader isn't 100% uptime, because it's not, and the heal is whatever, 5% strength all the time. Is that not more damage than procs of 15%? I don't know. Tanks care about damage a lot after they don't die anymore, but I feel like this scaling, because of how Bone Shield works, would overall benefit you more than the Fallen Crusader. But it's just me. So, you have a new spell that was added here. Everything else is the same. If I don't go over something, imagine it's the same as it is on live. So, Vampiric Blood, the tooltip is wicked broken right now, but it's still a 30% HP buff, last stand style thing. None changed. You have Reap Magic now, which I can't really show off, but I go over a little bit more in the VOD itself. It's kind of confusing. It was brought up as being a little bit confusing, but it is a 40-yard range, 10-second cooldown purge. You reap one beneficial effect from the target, removing it and granting you 25 runic power. This does not steal the buff. Reaping removes it, as it says, and you get runic power if you properly dispel something. That's all. People thought you could steal arcane powers or whatever. No, you cannot. You will dispel it with a 10-second cooldown and give yourself some runic power. That is how Reap Magic works. Heart Strike's Snare was reduced to 20%. Still 8 seconds, but 20% down from 50%. That's just overall CC changes that are happening in Battle for Azeroth. Gor Fiends Grasp is a 15-yard pull now instead of a 20-yard pull, which is probably one of the biggest changes. I can't really show this off the same, but what I can do is sort of give you a estimated range here where the Shadow Priest is currently pewing. So eyeballing it, we sort of did, let me see, my stun is 20 yards, right? Asphyxiate's 20 yards. So you would be able to grab from here before. So you can actually like position yourself like this, right? And this is about 20 yards from both of these packs. It's 20-yard stun, right? Asphyxiate is. But now, if I have to move in, because your actual Mind Freeze is 15 yards, once you get Mind Freeze to work, there you go. So you're at here from here. I mean, it's 5 yards less, but to give you sort of visualization, right? This is where you can stand right now. And then you have to stand this close for actually Gor Fiends. And you can Gor Fiends to yourself or a target, of course. There's no animation when you grab stuff that you miss. So I might be outside of this range by about a yard, possibly. Maybe here, right? Around these 15 yards. Because it'll still, like, tendril them and you can't pull target dummies. But just to give that in a little perspective, if you didn't think this was going to get nerfed, then you're playing a different game than I am. Because, yeah, like Feint getting nerfed, Arcane Torrent getting nerfed. Sign of the times, right? Always still a very powerful tool, but just has a bit less of a pull radius, so you can't pull things from across the room as much anymore. Of course, in the same regard, Death Grip hasn't been changed yet, so a 30-yard grip, 15-second cooldown for the Blood DK. So you still have the better grip because it's a longer cooldown for Frost and Unholy, so you can still single-target grip things all the time. It still has the taunt component attached to it. All that stuff remains the same. Raise Ally. This is back to having a runic power cost. I can hear the cries of sorrow right now. Type it out in the comments right now if you're crying in sorrow. I'm just rambling at that point. 30 runic power, 10-minute cooldown, still a 60-20 battle res versus the Druid's cast time 100%, 20% battle res. The Warlock still has the pre-combat version, of course, where they have a cast time longer than both obviously longer than Death Knights, but longer than Druids. And Raise Ally has the 30 runic power cost. Still instant cost, though. Instant cast, anyway. So that's back from an old time. It's just all the whole... It's on the GCD as well, if you want to freak out about that. But it is back to the whole decision-making change that Blizzard and the devs want us to have, where you can't just hit everything all the time. You have to make choices. And most of the choices just mean that you slow down your gameplay just a bit, which... Honestly, like, how much more slower is it going to be when you have to do a GCD to save someone's life? That person being alive in your Mythic Plus or your island at that moment or in your raid is going to be way more beneficial than your 2 Frost Strikes, okay? Jared. If any of you are named Jared right now, list a comment down below that you... Comment down below. Stop frost striking and res the damn priest. That's fine. We went over Death Strike's slight update. Death Grip cooldown remains the same. Death and Decay still remains the same 15-second cooldown for blood decays. And everything else is the same. If I not mentioned it. Control Undead has a big nerf on it right now, where you can only control Undead up to level 70. That could be a tooltip error. Because I guess they didn't want you having a friend anymore. I don't know. But there it is. I don't know why it's a 70. What the heck's going to happen there? All right, talent time. So, overall on talents, again, I'll bring up your live versions right now just so you can see as I walk through this. You lost Spectral Deflection, Heart of Ice, Tremble Before Me, Blood Mirror. Was anyone surprised? No? And March of the Damned. It's coming baseline, of course, sort of in the way that your heckin' Death's Advance is going to be. And then, of course, Wraithwalk goes here. New talents are Rune Strike, Consumption, Hemostasis, the new Wraithwalk again, and Voracious. And however, changed talents are Rapid Decomposition, Anti-Magic Barrier, Tightening Grasp, Grip of the Dead, Ossuary was changed, Foul Bulwark, Voracious, Mark of Blood, Bone Storm, and Red Thirst have all seen changes. So with any tanking video, I can't really show off how to live very long. Every tank over the course of the changes in BFA are all a little bit less self-sustaining. Obviously, the Blood Decay can self-sustain rather well. So can the Vengeance Demon Hunter. But you will still die to any tank encounter without ridiculous Azerite traits, maybe, or without a healer. So, I can get smacked by this train dummy and totally get my face pushed in, but I'm still gonna die eventually, even if I pop every cooldown that I have. Let's get some Death Strikes in there. Let's get some more of those. Some more of that Runic Power Generation. One of these, right? I'm still gonna get completely crushed. This is just a regular training dummy that is the boss dummy for a dungeon, and it will still tear me apart, right? Like, I'm still going to get totally wrecked. Now, my HP is not gonna go down as much because I have Will and Acropolis right now, which does keep me alive in the low end of things, but I'm still gonna get, yeah, whatever. I'm not gonna die on camera. I have to walk up to Boom someday. Even though he has a funny little tidbit of lore for the Death Knights if you die. I'm not gonna spoil that. You can find that out yourself. So as you can see, your 56, your tier 15 talents or whatever. Heartbreaker remains the same. Still has the extra Rune of Power Generation on extra targets hit. Even the single extra target you get on the Heart Strike, you still get an extra 2. And then, of course, if you have your Death and Decay down, you get those extra +3. So it's 6 extra, 8 extra, I guess, runic power per hit if you're in your D&D overall. That's still very much there. Let's get our health back a little bit. Actually, no. I'm going to go over to dummies and do that. Blood Drinker remains the same. Still becomes that channeled 30-second. You can do that from ranged. And you can still do whatever you want during that time period. Right? Don't worry about the numbers on that dummy. He takes 100,000% more damage. Not a big deal, but it scales properly with our HP here, right? Rune Strike is new and is kind of So right now, it does physical damage with a 1-minute cooldown. Cooldown is reduced by 1 second for every rune that you spend. 2 charges, generates 1 rune. And it feels good in the rotation to weave these, like 1 here and there, kind of like your old Blood Tap, sort of, with a much longer cooldown. And that feels fine. It feels more like a DPS button, honestly, because you'll use it aggressively to get more heart strikes in, and as you, of course, spend runes, as you do, to keep your marrow runs up, to keep your bone shields up, then you have this option. But it's still a pretty serious cooldown. This is with, of course, the 10% increased haste from Bone Shield. I have 29% haste right now. Haste is a huge stat for the Blood Decay, like haste and versatility. Mastery may or may not come up because of how armor works now and how the Absorb Shield will be more beneficial or less beneficial depending on the encounter. Who knows? I'm not sure. That's all mathy stuff for later. But as you can see, it's still like a ridiculously long cooldown. And I'm trying to hit things on cooldown as much as I can to quell the rumor and the talk about this working or whatnot. It does not currently work with Dancing Rune Weapon. It only gives you 1 rune. That does not work at all right now. Neither does stacking Hemostasis, which I'll go over in a moment, of course, which are basically just the legendary shoulders you have on live. But Rune Strike does not work with Dancing Rune Weapon, and neither does many other things. Like Consumption doesn't do anything else either, because they're just brand new talents. They haven't been coded to work with DRW. Maybe they should eventually. We'll see. I have Consumption toggled right here. This is your artifact weapon trait that still does the same kind of... Yeah, so that's an animation clipping bug, because you can cast this on live right now and hit nothing, invoke the cooldown, but still put up the leech aura, the vampiric aura. But that's still kind of weird. Oh, I still had my talent thing up that whole time. My bad. I thought I had clicked enough wave it. But Consumption, it'll hit every target in front of you, and you heal for 100% of all the damage dealt. And it's fine. It just doesn't really do enough damage right now for it to feel like it's a big heal. Like this is like not even 2,000 health on 4 targets of 24,000 HP for a 45-second cooldown with no interaction with cooling down at all. It's just kind of bleh. Obviously, it scales out of control with lots of targets. But to make it better, obviously, it'll be a numbers tuning pass, which is, of course, later in beta. So we'll see. But if you like that Consumption, you like that on-hit heal, or on-cast, rather, of course, it does sync up with your Vampiric Bloods, so you get the extra healing from that. It does sync up with hitting it into a Death Strike and having a big lot of snap healing. But on single target, it's only going to heal you for, like, less than a Death Strike. So it needs to be strong enough. Like, it needs to do double damage to the main target or something. A lot of those abilities now that have that more, 100% more damage to a single target if nothing else is hit kind of a deal. Because right now it just feels like way undertuned. Hemostasis is your legendary shoulders, however changed slightly. Now it is each enemy hit by your Blood Boil will increase the damage and healing done by your next Death Strike by 10% up to 5 stacks. So yes, that means that if you hit lots of targets, you get lots of stacks. And then you can Death Strike for 50% more healing and damage. That's fine. On single target, of course, it will take 5 Blood Boils to do that, which is similar to how it works on live right now, because there's Blood Boil casts. But now if you're AoE tanking, it seems like a little bit more powerful than it was on live, but again, it's weaker because the shoulder version was 20% more. But that's just a scaling thing, because the number squish. So it doesn't really matter if it's less than Tooltip was old. 10% in BFA could be the same as equivalent to 20% in Battle for Azeroth, or from Legion to Battle for Azeroth, right? It doesn't matter. Rapid Decomposition was changed. It's Blood Plague and Death and Decay damage deals itself. It's 15% faster. So it's 15% haste scaling on D&D and Blood Plague. Now, what's weird about that is going back on the whole haste scaling. Your D&D will tick a little faster, and your Blood Plague takes a 2.6 instead of 3 seconds. So Rapid Decomposition on live right now is the D&D deals damage 15% more often, and then when you're in your D&D, you generate the extra runic power. The runic power is gone. Now it's just D&D ticks faster, which does have sort of an anti-synergy with Grip of the Dead, kind of. I think the Grip of the Dead slow decays every time it ticks, so you see how fast it ticks down there. Now, granted, of course, you still have the passive where you get the Crimson Scourge, where you have your auto attacks give you your death and decay resets. So it might be fine. Obviously, doing more damage is more beneficial, I think, than the slow, because you only want the slow for a few seconds when you're kiting and you drop it again anyway. So, but this tier is interesting. Everyone will say that Hemostasis is too powerful, but again, numbers tuning aside, Consumption may get really good if they have some extra bonus damage components on single target or whatnot. Or Rapid Decomposition is hilarious on multi-target, because your Blood Plague and your D&D tick even faster, and they couple with a talent later on that I'll talk about in a little bit. Well, the Necropolis moves way up here. Same effect as it is on live, though. Anti-magic barrier was changed. No longer is the weird Death Knight last stand now. It just reduces the cooldown of anti-magic shell from 1 minute to 45 seconds, and it increases its duration and amount absorbed by 30%. AMS is 30% of your max health. So AMSing in a vampiric blood window will be a stronger one, or if you have the 10% health from of the Restoration Shaman, or you've got Rallying Cry going on or whatever, obviously it's going to be more powerful. So the anti-magic barrier version is giving you 39-ish% of your max health as the Absorb Shield. Your main key tool against magic damage, other than just getting smacked in the face and death striking for it, which again, that's why Death Strike was brought up by a little bit. And then Rune Tap, of course, is still here with the 25-second recharge. 2 charges. It's 30% all damage taken reduced for 4 seconds. On live right now, Rune Tap is way down here at the 90 tier, and it consumes the rune to reduce all damage taken by 40% for 3. So it's less DR by 10%, but 1 additional second. But again, that's all damage still. Anti-magic barrier, of course, is going to be magic damage, and of course gives you runic power when you absorb more. Right? And Will of the Necropolis is up here to compete with it as a passive, because Will of the Necropolis was down there with Foul Bulwark and Rune Tap, and you basically never took Will of the Necropolis because it was always overshadowed by Rune Tap or Foul Bulwark nonsense stacking out of the control with Ossuary. But that's what's up next. Those compete now. So Tombstone is the exact same thing. This is on live, but again, because of magic damage changes and because of Bone Shield now is armor, remember that, Tombstone could be good to on-demand eat up your Bone Shield charges to get a nice, nifty magic damage shield. It's all damage shield, right? It's not just magic damage, but it is a pretty chunky shield that you can, of course, just stack your blood shields into. And this will work on magic damage as well, at the cost of a few of your armor bone shield charges, which won't do anything to magic damage. So Tombstone may actually see some use now. Maybe. We'll see. Ossuary is changed to do 5 more charges of bone shield maximum and give you 25 more runic power. The reduction, where is it? The reduction in Death Strike cost is removed. So, and it's more max runic power. The live version is 10 more, but you still have the 115 max on the Blood DK, which we couldn't find in the passive anywhere. But again, looking at the database right now is so ridiculous with all the beta stuff happening. So this will give you up to 140, right? So 25 more, 140. So you can store up to 3 Death Strikes back to back to back, and you have more Bone Shield charge, which gives you more time to Heart Strike, which gives you more runic power, because Heart Strike, of course, still has, which, you know, with Heartbreaker or not, still has the additional 5 bonus runic power on every use, which is half of a rune's worth. Every rune you eat is 10 runic power, which is nowhere in the spellbook, so you just kind of learn that, I guess, because, you know, Blizzard's tooltips and whatnot. And Foul Bulwark was nerfed, but not really. Again, think of this in the number squish sense, where 20% more HP on live could be equivalent to 10% more HP in BFA, but it's 1% max health per charge of Bone Shield, which of course means you have to keep that Bone Shield stacked. Mark of Blood is still here and still kind of meh. I don't know. It's on the GCD. It costs 30 runic power, 15-yard range. You can have up a bajillion of these things. And the victim that is getting auto attack hit by the target will heal for 2% of their max health. I mean, you can take that. This is obviously selfless, right? Because you can use it in your co-tank and get extra bit of healing. But it's just kind of... It needs a quality of life where it splashes Mark of Blood to like nearby AoE targets so it can be used. Maybe it costs a lot. Maybe it should cost like 50 runic power and just AoE out and have like a light cooldown. Because in this case, what are you going to do? Stand around and cast like 6 of these things? Yuck. Right? It's just not very good. Bloodworms was updated to work on auto attacks now. Not crit auto attacks, but just pure auto attacks. Still has the minor damage, and then they will heal for 15% of your missing health. And when you drop below 50% health, they will immediately burst and heal you. This does sync up really well with Will of the Necropolis, because when you are below that HP pool, you will notice, I'll go over here to the target dummy again, because it's actually kind of funny. They spawn on autos and immediately pop for that 15% of your missing health heal, which is pretty nice. They also keep you in combat forever. Yeah. Are you done? No? There we go. That still exists if you... But if you take Will of the Acropolis here and get my face pushed in, and once you're in the Will of the Acropolis window and taking 35% less damage from everything, and your bloodworms are popping and healing you for 15% of your HP all the time, make sure you take some more damage here. Don't just say you're gonna hit me, just hit me. There we go. So you can actually note there's a huge stay alive part coming in here. Now again, of course, you have to get procs. We'll pop our huge Tombstone right there. Pop one of those. All right, we'll do one of that. Ew. Pop one of these. But I mean, this is a boss dummy. I'm actually gonna get wrecked here in a moment. Here it comes. Yeah, waiting for that. There's Purgatory. See if I can heal away from it. No, I'm gonna die. Goodbye. Oh, I healed it. Oh, we did it. But again, this is just living inside this Will of the Acropolis window. There's a bloodworm popping right there. One of those. Oh, there we go. Damn. I didn't get global cooldown. I literally had to build like 10 more runic power to Death Strike. But you saw how long I lived there. And we're going to see Bwomsamdi. I'm not going to tell you about what he says to Death Knights. But anyway. So that's interesting because you'll have more bloodworm uptime because of the fact that it doesn't work on crit auto. Is that what it says on live right now? Bloodworms. Whoops. Yeah, your auto attack critical strikes have a chance, which is ridiculous. So now it's just auto attacks. It might be an RPPM system or a chance. I am reporting it that why don't just say the chance, but it might be RPPM based, like a stacking RPPM. So you always have like one about to burst, then one just summoning. And then Voracious. Voracious is sort of, what's it called? The unending thirst from your artifact. Let me get back to my body real quick here. So Death Strike will grant you 15% leech for 6 seconds. I can't test if this is just additive as it reads, even though it's not the correct form of an additive tooltip because it doesn't say additional. It might be multiplicative, but I don't have any leech on my gear, so I couldn't test that. And I can't test the aura from Prot Warrior because it's a flat one as well. But this could be really nice. So the damage taken thing, let's go to Voracious. Let's go to Heartbreaker real quick here. And what does it look like when you have Rapid Decomposition and Voracious at the same time? So we get your cross dots. I don't heal myself to full before it even happens here. But if you activate that, well, you can show it in the combat log here. You can see all the Blood Plague ticks. And of course, all of the leech ticks will happen in there at the same time. Let's get some more runic power here so I can keep up Voracious itself. People said it's about an 80% or so uptime, depending on. So it's a lot of trickle healing, of course. Again, you want to put your D&D down because your D&D is going to be even more leech healing. So this is all healing, by the way. This is all what happened. You know, what happened to me. There we go. Oh, you can't see it. It won't overheal. Show me the overhealing. Yeah. Every time you're seeing all the Blood Plague ticks right here, you're going to see all of the overhealing, of course. I have to go take damage for the combat log to actually show. But that could be a thing if you're AoE tanking a lot of stuff. But again, Rapid Decomp does it, I don't know, better than either of these for AoE tanking. I don't know. A lot of this kind of stuff, when it comes down to tanks, I don't know anything empirical. I can't really give my opinion because a lot of it right now depends on the situation you're in. All I know is that Ossuary and Foul Bulwark no longer can stack to madness levels on live where you get 15 extra stacks and 30% extra HP. That's obviously dead and gone. So, Purgatory you saw pop already still has the same 4-minute cooldown. Red Thirst gets bumped down here and then change slightly. Let's do this again. Let's do this, and this, and that, and one of these. So there's the huge haste trickle heal, all affected with rapid decomposition, of course. Put it back up. Now the biggest heal, of course, is from hitting Death Strike, but you can see how it was there. You can see all this. This is all the healing, right? And this is over every second. You know, 1 second, 1 second. That's all 1 second window right there when I reapplied. So it's all pretty good. But Red Thirst now is 10 runic power equals 1 second off Vamp Blood. On live right now, it is 6 runic power, right? Yeah, 6 runic power equals 1 second off of Vamp Blood. But now it's a 100 talent. So do you need more Vamp Blood windows for a major cooldown? Do you want Purgatory to save you from that, oh crap, I whoops and got GCD'd meme? Or you take Bone Storm. Bone Storm was actually buffed by 1%. So it has the same 10 to 100. I'm going to do a lot of walking back. Let me get Wraith Walk on my bars just so I can walk back a little faster. Bone Storm is 3% max HP each time it deals damage. Now this does scale ridiculously with AoE. The more targets you hit every 1 second that it deals damage, you gain the HP heal, the 3%. So now the one thing we talked about here is that talked about, it wouldn't work on Thok. He's only a single target boss fight. So Tombstone, interesting use for magic damage possibly, but now, so Foul Bulwark gives you 10% more HP, and Bone Storm giving you the 3% max health heal. So just, I'm not doing anything else. I'm going to stop this, right? I'm going to keep my stacks up and let me refresh one more time here. We're going to sit here at 34% health. Or no, remember, I'm 40 because I got a proc there. And we're going to cast Bone Storm. This is on 4 targets. So the 10% increased health from Foul Bulwark with the 3% max health heal per damage hit, right? That's right there on 4 targets. That's 12% max health a second. So Bone Storm right now on live is 2, but again, it competes with Blood Mirror, which is incredibly hilarious, right? Or Purgatory, which is too good. But now you've got more cooldowns, the sort of built-in ooh crap cooldown, or Bone Storm, which I think definitely feels pretty good if you can combine it. Now, Bone Storm could work on live right now with like 15 stacks plus Foul Bulwark and whatever, but you still just take Blood Mirror or Purgatory though. So the extra healing that it can do on Bone Storm looks like it might bring it up a little bit. Mostly because you can't stack both of these now. You can't Ossuary and Foul Bulwark. So maybe this works. Maybe Ossuary works, of course, give me the extra runic power. Red Thirst works better with that one. Storing up 3 Death Strikes into more often Vamp Bloods could be huge too. Couple different builds, couple different options. Again, numbers aside, this tier, your 57 tier, seems like a very numbers battle-y kind of thing. So does your 75 in a way. If Tombstone is too weak, no one will take it, but if it's too strong, it'll be mandatory. Because it's just guard, right? It's just Death Knight guard. Just like how Vengeance Demon Hunters have Soul Barrier, which is basically just Demon Hunter guard. But regardless, that is the Blood Decay. Let me know down below what you think of the updates and changes to some of the talents, the huge shifting around, the thought of that you are not going to be the slowest spec of the game anymore because you could have 2 minor movement speeds. Well, you'll have 1 major on a very short duration and then 1 minor once this gets updated in the next build, which is interesting, but again, you can't take Tightening Grasp. So, what do you think in the comments below? Let me know. Subscribe, of course, if it's your first time to the channel. Check out the video description box down below for my socials and the Twitch live stream where you can be a part of all of the testing when it happens. All the second passes still have yet to come, so you can be there when we do all these specs again and in the whole Is It Ready for Launch series I'm going to be doing, basically. But thank you again for watching. I will see you all in the final 2 specs, depending on when the patch comes live with Unholy and Frost Death Knights very, very soon.